Welcome to Enrichment of Mind, Body, and Soul. How are you guys doing today? I hope you continue to do your journaling. I hope you're pausing and taking some time for yourself because it is very important that we pause and take some time for ourselves, especially if we are going through a transitional period. Especially if we're going through a transitional period in our lives, we need to pause and we really need to look at ourselves and see exactly where we're heading. And this evening, we got such an interesting topic. We are talking about miscarriages, and we're going to be talking also about baby loss. Because in many homes, this normally happens. Sometimes you find a woman, she's pregnant, she's expecting this child. A family is expecting this child. And suddenly, that expectancy is short lived and there is grief. How are you processing grief as a family? How are you processing that grief? As a woman, how are you processing that grief? As a father, how are you processing that grief? It's a difficult journey for so many people. And this topic really need to be discussed because people look at an
Are we
individual,
frozen?
people look at an individual whom lost a child and think, you know what? Oh, you by now you should recover from this grief. You know, it's not that easy, especially for a woman who was carrying a soul for 9 months, and then you have a miscarriage, or the child is born, and you bond with that child just for a few hours, and that child is gone. It's very, very difficult. It's very difficult. So this evening, we got such a beautiful guest, and Christiana, she's going to really dive deep into this topic because she's certified to speak about this topic and to really help families, individuals, especially the women who have lost a child, and even to the fathers. She's going to really help us to understand how we can process this. And she's going to give us some strategies how we can process grief in this process. It's really not easy. It's just not easy because myself and Lady J, we have talked to many people, women and even men, who go through this process, and it's just not easy. So we decided to, you know what, we need to address this topic on enrichment of mind, body, and soul, and bring on somebody who is certified enough to speak on this topic. So this evening, if you know someone who can benefit from this podcast, just share us out. And don't forget to subscribe to Soul Light and Body. And if this is the first time that you're joining Enrichment of Mind, Body, and Soul, we just want to say a very special welcome to you. You are in a good space. And in this space, you're going to learn so much because every week we bring on a guest to enrich you, the audience, because we're always looking out for you and to give you the tools, the necessary tools that you can help yourself on this journey called life. So I'm not going to take up much of your time because I'm at a wedding right now. I just take some time off just to come outside and just to start the podcast. But I'm going to toss the mic to Lady J. I'm current Lady K, holistic health and wellness coach, and the co-author of two books with my sister Lady J and my daughter Tremaine. And we also have a digital magazine and a hard copy magazine. And if you have not subscribed as yet, the links are in the comments below, and you can just go subscribe, and it's for free, you know. And our books are up on Amazon. Your gut in you and self-care is intentional, and you can always just go look, take a look at it, and just read what we have there, and you're gonna be able to buy the book and read the book in depth. So we just want to thank you so much for always supporting us. We want to thank the new subscribers in YouTube. and the people on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter. We just want to thank you so much for coming into this space and always giving us the good feedback, because we always welcome this good feedback from each and every one of you. But I'm going to toss the mic now to Lady J. Lady J, take the mic. Tommy, thank you for being here as well.
Wow. What amazing day. What amazing topic. How is it? What's happening over at the wedding there? Glad that you guys
Well,
are out there enjoying it.
right, they just finished getting married, and whilst I was coming downstairs to get into the car to start the podcast, I saw the food was going upstairs. So when I go
Oh,
back now, it's to eat. I didn't have
take it.
Indian food in a long while, so I'm gonna just eat.
Take a couple of bites for us. We love love.
I
We love love, and it's amazing when people can get together and form a common union and the families and cultural, because it's cultural, so it's always good. It's such a joy to be in spaces like those, so that's wonderful. I'm so glad that you both, you and Mr. Pascal, are there along with the family, Terrence and everyone else who's there. So give them our love, send them, tell them, let them know we're sending out, shouting them out, and send them love.
sure I will do that for you guys. I will. I
We got
will.
a
I
great
will.
topic tonight that we're going to be talking about with Christiana, someone who is truly amazing and is creating such a major impact in the world and helping women and families a total, and to understand, well, how do we cope with this? Because each one is different and everybody grieve differently. Everybody move through challenges differently. And we're so blessed and a true honor to have Christiana in the house tonight, because she's going to bring a level of clarity, shall we say, a level of clarity and how we can move with confidence in the direction when we experience, someone experience miscarriage, baby loss, and really how to move through challenges really in life and to stay strong. And in moments that you feel weak, you feel low, but then how do you rise again and stand up strong and still continue to do what you do? Because sometimes you might find someone who is in the corporate world and she may be the CEO of the company, and she's got to be strong even though she might just have lost a baby, went through miscarriages. And how does someone still bounce back and stand strong with a level of clarity and run a company and really move through, serve her family, her husband, her kids if she had kids before. So it's truly amazing that we are talking about this subject tonight. Where are you, the audience, tonight in your space in life? And June is almost concluded tomorrow. And how are you coping? How are you doing? Are you celebrating those big wins, big or small? Are you pausing? Are you taking some time for you? Are you taking some time for you? Because you are important. You are special. You are unique. You are enough. And you have that special gift. So take some time for you. That is why we wrote the book, Self Care is Intentional, because self care is super important so that you can really nourish and nurture yourself, so that you can serve from a full cup, so that you can be your best and you can step in your power and you can show yourself grace and remind yourself who you are. You deserve the best. You deserve the best. Continue to step outside wherever you are. Do your meditation. Practice your whatever holistic approach that works for you. Because it's all by your individuality. Where you find work for you, just work that. So you can stay centered and balanced. That is why we, as I said before, nourish and nurture. Because yeah, we eat the right, we choose quality food, we eat good food, right? I hope you're making great choices when you go shopping in the supermarket. But then what about the other aspect of your life? Your spirituality, your physical activity. Are you learning to let go? Of course, that's sometimes that is very difficult sometimes to let go. Someone have done you wrong, someone have done you bad, wrong. But holding on to that really don't help you because you feel just find that time for yourself that you can let go so that you can move and move light. So that you can able to receive all the greatness life has to offer you. Make room. You're worth it. Yes, you are. You're worth it. So take that time for you. Let go what is not serving you well. And so you can step into the future light and to receive all the goodies that life has to offer you. Are you when you walk into a room, how is the vibration? How is the level of energy? What do you come with when you enter a space? Is it a lasting impression that when that conversation is being exchanged with, whether it's a group or one on one on a phone call or your presence? How is your presence when you step into a space? The level of vibration that you change that energy and you can bring that up high. And people could feel that. We just want to thank all of you for taking the bold moves that you're making in life. Yes, you may be facing fear, rejection, but you're able to find a space to redirect and to move forward. And you're not letting setbacks hold you back. You're not letting what you experience hold you down, but you're rising and you're rising with a level of confidence, level of clarity to know that you have what it takes. You're tapping into your inner being, your inner self, and you're rising up and you say, yes, I might have been through a lot, but you know what? There is more in me. And I'm going to make that choice to make that first step, to step forward so I can achieve my best, my all, and be everything, my reason for being in this universe. So we want to congratulate you for making those bold moves. Continue shining. My name is Lady J, holistic health and wellness coach, and so many other things with our podcast and our books and all the other projects we're working on. Because everything we do is with you in mind. Our mission here in this universe is to serve you. So we are glad that you're giving us the opportunity to do so. Thank you all. And we know now just want to welcome our amazing guest, Christiana. It's such an honor for us to share space with you tonight. Thank you for being here.
Oh my goodness. Thank you, Joan. Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Tom. It's a pleasure, an honor, and a blessing to be here to join you guys. For me, it's, I think, midnight. And for you guys, it's in the afternoon. First of all, Karen, you look fabulous. That wedge, I think you went. I think she's dressed to impress. Like, you look fabulous. I love the
Thank
outfit.
you.
Yeah.
So nice. It's so nice to finally meet you. I think I only met Joe to begin with, but it's really lovely to meet you too. And thank you.
Good to meet
So
you as well.
thank you for the opportunity to be here to share. I want to call it my truth. To share my truth
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
on this journey and about what we're talking about tonight. For me, it's something that I am passionate about. Something that, when you go through adversity, you never really you never really intend on starting something, but we have experienced a trauma, experienced something that really shakes your world. You
Mm-hmm.
cannot help but want to share, but want to um, reach out to others, because sometimes we work and we do things in isolation, and we think we're the only ones going through that issue, that problem, that scenario, that event, that incident, until we reach out and hear others' story. And then we think, oh my goodness, wow, okay. So I want to thank you, first of all, for giving the
Thank
opportunity
you.
to really come and share and to talk about this important yet taboo subject that we're still finding our feet and finding our ways of how we bring this to a global space where people are not going to be afraid in speaking about how they truly feel and the impact it truly has once they've experienced miscarriage or baby loss. So once again, thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. It's a true honor. Yeah, you are a true inspiration, and thank you for what you open there with, because as you mentioned that it's hopefully that we continue to move forward the conversation, and that we can move this on a global scale where people can really speak exactly how they feel. And as you rightfully said, when you open to, you're here to speak your truth, and to share with the world. It's okay to, when you once you feel comfortable, to share, because when you
Yeah.
share, there is power in that, because then you're helping others so that they can find a space in their life that they can share as well too, on their own terms and what they feel comfortable with.
Yes. Yes, I completely agree with you. I want the opportunity to first of all say hi to Lisa Fevick. I love her
Oh
shows.
yeah, we
I love
love
the work
Lisa.
she's doing. She's a huge supporter of my LinkedIn Live. So it's so nice to see when people who I'm used to seeing are supporting you guys as well. So thank you, and hi Lisa, if you're
Yeah, we
still
love
watching.
Lisa.
Yes, I do too. So I tend to begin with this, and this is not to bring in mathematics.
Hmm.
But I think we need to understand this to understand the gravity of what we're dealing with. So, because I'm based in the UK, I'm going to begin with the statistics. We know that miscarriage happens to 1 in 4. 1 in 4 women will experience miscarriage or baby loss, right? And also, when we think about those that know somebody that may have experienced this trauma, 50% of us will know someone who has experienced miscarriage. So half of us on this planet would have known somebody who have experienced miscarriage or baby loss. And prior to I suppose the recent century, that wasn't what people thought about, because it was so hidden. It was such a taboo subject to talk about, and therefore we didn't discuss. We didn't put statistics out there. We didn't show our emotions. We didn't show our numbers. On top of
Yeah,
that,
that is so true what you're saying there, Christiana, because it was like it's taboo, because to talk about it, they weren't comfortable. And it's so great that you are able to spark the conversation,
yes, yes,
to share
and
with the world,
you
and you find a
mentioned.
level of courage and strength and
thank
determination to bring clarity to this subject.
thank you, thank you. You mentioned people don't talk about it. So with the facts that we have, 1 in 8
Lady K?
couples will experience fertility issues. Okay, 1 in 8 couples will experience fertility issues. And it isn't just you start to think of the numbers. So if there is 10 of us in the room, let's think about that for a second. At least one of us is experiencing, as a couple, is experiencing fertility issues. Now that we might be a little bit ashamed to talk about, might be a little bit fearful, or the fear of judgment, the fear of being looked at as
So
what's wrong with you,
Tom, can you hear us?
So there's just the fear of different things. So
you're
it's really
hearing you.
important that we talk about this.
Sorry, guys, we are
Be-
experiencing some difficulties, some technical difficulties, I think.
Yes, I think
We
can
can
you hear
hear
me, Karen?
Christiana.
Yes, Karen can hear us.
I
Thank
can hear
you.
you.
Great. Joan, can you hear me? Joan, can you hear me?
I don't think she can hear you.
No, but you can hear me, right?
Yes, I can hear you. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you hear me now, Joan?
Yes, I can hear you now. Thank you.
Amazing. So I was saying that imagine you have a couple, 8 couples in a room. There's going to be one couple in that room that's experiencing fertility issues. So 1 in 8 couples experience fertility issues. 1 in 4 women experience miscarriage, right? Here in the UK, over 250,000 babies or pregnancies are lost a year. Now imagine if all those babies were born, right? This is how much loss the people are experiencing a year. And this also causes the economy at the cost of almost 500 million a year. So you mentioned a key thing earlier, Joan, when you spoke about a woman who could be at the top of her tree, at the top of her career. She's a businesswoman, she's a CEO, and she experiences, miscarriage. I have such clients who have returned to work 2 days after a miscarriage or whilst they're still experiencing miscarriage
Wow.
because they have to continue with the work that is given to them because they don't feel as a senior management, a senior management level, they cannot even begin to explain or ask for time off, the things we tell ourselves that we cannot do. And let's not forget that our work environment and workspaces don't even know where to begin, how to begin to talk about miscarriage and baby loss. We have HR policies that are ineffective, you know, in when they're produced because why? Sometimes we don't even consult with the people we're creating these policies for. We move ahead, we create these policies, and they're ineffective because those you created it for, it doesn't quite fit, it doesn't quite work for them. You've not considered them for a second. So I have employers who say to me, well, I don't know what to do, or we haven't broached it because, or we're afraid of being sued. There's so many reasons that I hear time and time again. And it takes just being humans first of all. With this experience, and as I say to my clients, you must be humans first of all. We must remember to treat each other with that kindness, that respect, that love, that care. Because before we embody the titles that we embody, whether in our personal life or in our professional life, we're humans first of all. And I say this because I remember when I first began this journey on LinkedIn, I'd put a post out and somebody said to me in my DMs, you need to be out of this space, right? This is not a space for you to talk about miscarriage and baby loss. Go to Facebook. And I had to respond and say, before we become professionals, we're human beings first of all. And so this conversation and this issue and this trauma, in fact, affects humans, whether you're a professional or not. So to say that is that when we think about the statistics, now we know that people are experiencing this, and let's look at the reasons why people, a lot of women and couples I work with will tell me I can't speak to I don't know what to say to my family. I don't even know what to say to my boss. I can't even go into work. I've got to keep a straight face when I go in and be brave. And I ask the question, why do you need to be brave? Why do you need to feel brave? What is it
Right.
that drives you to want to operate and want to deal with this in secrecy? Here are the things: the fear of being judged, the
Mhm.
shame that we carry, the negative self talk we tell ourselves. My body isn't good enough. My body X, Y, and Z. I mean, you can fill in the gaps. There's so many of these comments that are made by women, especially. So they tell themselves, or we tell ourselves that we're not good enough for this, and X, Y, and Z. There is being able to carry pregnancy. How is it that the only thing that God has asked me to do, I can't even manage? So that plays in our sight, in our minds, in our
Mhm.
psychological, you know, and emotional well-being, which then results in us operating in isolation,
Mhm.
right? And imagine that you go into work. I'll give you a good example. The client who had experienced miscarriage, who returned, having not told anyone that was what happened,
Right.
returned to the desk full of baby items, hoping and wanting to congratulate the pregnancy, only to walk into this pile of beautiful, meaningful, intentional gifts. And they broke down in tears. I was like, what's the matter? Why are you crying? Is it tears of joy? And it wasn't until then that it dawned on her the experience she'd had, and she was still going through the process. So the process of DNC, dilate and curettage, which is a process where you go into hospital to remove or extract your deceased fetus. And you need to have time off to be able to recover physically and also to be able to recover mentally, emotionally, and have the time to process what is happening
Of
to your
course,
body,
right.
right? And we don't have that time because we're busy worrying about work. We're busy worrying about,
Right.
especially for women who are in senior management. We have a staff that we've got to run, a team that we need to run. We have work that we have deadlines to meet. We have those that are relying upon, heavily relies upon us to deliver and to do the necessary work that we've been tasked to do at work, and we have to return. So here is how we move. One of the ways of moving forward is this. I always say to my ladies, a few things we need to consider at the first instance of miscarriage. Think about it. For some women, they're experiencing, PCOS, which is polycystic ovary syndrome, as well as other potential medical conditions. Let's think about how are you going to, first of all, manage those conditions. So the first thing is, I just experienced miscarriage. What is my mind telling me? What am I feeling? Who needs
Oh,
to be my first point of contact? Right? Sorry?
stay tuned, that's because this is
I
such
feel
an amazing topic.
yes. So we have to really ask the question, what do I need? What is it right now I need to do? Do I need medical attention? And if so, what does that look like?
Hmm.
So from my own personal experience, and these are the things that we don't really think about. For some women, for some couples, it takes years to conceive. And I speak
Right.
to couples and women especially who it has been a real journey for them. A journey whereby becoming pregnant wasn't straightforward. Some people are very blessed;
Right.
they can fall pregnant really quickly. For some, it would take 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 years. In my experience, 7 years was when I spent my first pregnancy. It took me 7 years to get pregnant the first time, only to result in a loss, right? Then the second loss, then the third loss. And the reality is, when that is happening, there is so much physical and mental gymnastics that we are doing, the body is doing,
Right.
the mind is doing, for us to arrive at this journey, called pregnancy. There's also the preconception aspect of getting yourself, your body physically ready, your mind physically ready, because you already have existing conditions that may make it a bit difficult, a little bit more work to achieve that goal of pregnancy,
Right. Right.
right? So when you experience a loss, it's a heavy loss
It's a heavy
because
loss.
you know that the journey that you've gone through to be able to get to that point. And for some women, they're told cannot get pregnant. So when they do get pregnant, it's a joy. It's
Joy.
something we're looking
Yeah.
forward to. We're elated. We're like, oh my goodness, thank God, it's a miracle. And then it results in a loss. So here's the thing.
Hmm.
First of all, I call it the miscarriage first aid. Number one, as you explain that miscarriage, who do you have to hand? Do you have a medical professional that you can call upon?
Hmm.
And I say this before I get shut down, it has to be the right medical professional for you. Because in
Right.
my experience, we had the telephone call and that was our aftercare. That was it. That's the aftercare. Oh, here is it. We can issue a leaflet, go and see a therapist, and that's it. There's nothing else. When we should have been part of, you need to ensure from a medical perspective, in some cases, request for your medical records so you can truly understand what
Right.
is going on for you, what your body is doing. And don't get me wrong, we as women can be so in tune with our bodies when we know something is wrong with our bodies.
Right. Exactly.
And sometimes we're told, are you sure? You must be going crazy, right? In my case, my consultant fully asked me the question where I achieve my medical degree from? Sarcastically. And I happily answered, at the University of Christiana T. Johnson. That was my answer because I know me well and I
Of
know something is
course.
right and something is wrong. So I'm saying this to say, have the right medical team around you, and don't ignore your gut instincts. It is so
Mhm.
important that we know ourselves so well. Take the time to get to understand your body yourself. So when somebody else is
Yeah.
telling you no, you're wrong, and you know deep down that you're not wrong, go with your gut instincts. Where possible, seek a second opinion.
Yeah, that's so important, Christiana. That's so super important.
Seek a second opinion because you could get a different answer, and that could
Hmm.
be the thing that saves your life.
True.
So the third thing is, once you have received and gotten access to your medical records, now for different parts of the world it's different. Over here we can
Right.
write in, and in the UK you can ask your medical records under the Freedom of Information Act. You can request for your medical records to be given to you. It might take some time, they might charge you, but once you receive that, really go through that. Take the time to write down questions that you might have, because when we are sat in front of medical professionals that we trust so much, sometimes we do forget things, especially when we're worried, especially when we are
Right. Right.
quite
Right.
intense, feeling quite frustrated, feeling shocked, feeling confused. So I always say, take the time, write down the things that you want to know about your journey. Again, and I say that because imagine this: you go to a hairstylist or a hairdresser, and you sat there and you take in a photo and say, I want my hair to look like this. You
Right.
give it to the hairdresser, they sat there and they go through the whole process of getting your hair done. You sit down, you think, I'm getting pampered, this is great. And you complete that session only to have the hair completely the wrong thing from what you wanted to happen. Perhaps when your hair might be chopped up shorter than you expected, like the wrong thing to happen. Here's the thing: you would have sat in that chair, in that mirror, with that stylist, having not once contributed, said anything, or said, I don't like my hair this way. The same thing in a medical situation like this. We need to be part of the process, part of the decision making process. So we are making informed decision. So we know what our options are, first of all, before we move forward. Because once we can do that, I call that getting clarity. By getting clarity, we have the confidence to move forward. We're not longer in the dark. And that air of fear that we feel
That those are some key
alleviates.
pointers that you touch on, Christiana, because knowing this, having access to this information is super important, because what you're doing in this discussion and informing us tonight is that you are equipping women also with their husband and their family entirety of that, because everybody work throughout the process to learn what are the things. Okay, we know that there are going to be a birth process here. How do we start? What do we do? What are some of the things we got to think about? And what you bring into this discussion tonight is that you bring a level of clarity. How do we move forward with this?
Yes.
And so when you have highlighted about trust yourself,
Yes.
because we all have that that intuition, that inner knowing,
We do.
and that is our
We do.
inner guide, right?
Yes, yes. It's our spiritual guide.
Yep, true.
It truly is
Yes,
because we are spiritual beings.
being.
I will go back to what I said initially. We are human beings first
Hmm.
before we are professionals. And our gut instincts, our intuition, whatever you want to call it, is our spiritual being.
Yeah,
And quite often, when we're faced with trauma or faced with adversity, we don't always listen to our spiritual being,
that's true.
our inner self.
Inner self, love that.
So it's really important that we take the time to listen to our inner self and shut away the noise. If that means that You want to go into a space, a room, somewhere for work, you can ask for that space and say, I just need some time off, some time out
Right,
to
right, right.
process. 'Cause as you process and you begin to write down and you begin to really ask yourself those questions before anybody else gets to ask you, that's the importance of being, the importance of having that space, that time, because it's needed. And I understand we're busy people. This is also for people who perhaps are already parents and just want to, increase their family. They want to have more children. Find the time for yourself to process. I say this to couples. And in a couple, don't do it in isolation completely. So as a woman, begin and you have that thought to yourself. Allow yourself the time separately and then together to truly have those conversations, no matter how difficult those conversations have, because it will help you to move forward on your journey. It will really help to bring you together, really help to really, foster that relationship, that connection that sometimes miscarriage and baby loss comes in to disrupt. Right? Because when we're going through trauma, we forget that we're not each other's enemy. The
Right.
blame game begins. I've seen couples who have gone their separate ways after experiencing this trauma. So I don't say it lightly, I say it because it's really important that we think about each other. You began this journey in love. Don't forget the love you had when you started the
Right,
journey.
right.
And in doubt, pull in even closer.
Mm-hmm.
Shut away the outside noise, whether that's in-laws or the people that might have opinions, suggestions and things. I always say, take on the good ones in this ear and throw away the bad ones out of this
Love it.
ear.
Just love what you're saying because I like when you talk about pull in closer when you're in
Yes,
doubt.
yes.
Shut the
Pull in
noise
closer.
out.
Yes. And I mean physically
And that
and
is so true
mentally, shut,
because
shut the noise out.
sometimes the noise, the distraction,
Yes,
the
yes,
noise and the distraction does not really help us to really process the trauma one is experiencing.
absolutely, absolutely.
It's
And
so beautiful when sorry, go ahead.
that's what I come absolutely shut the noise out and allow yourself the time. This is what I say to my clients is time is not just a healer.
Hmm.
Time is time to process.
Time to process.
Time is time to understand. Time is time to build your confidence.
Mm,
Time
beautiful.
is time to get clarity so you can walk with confidence into your medical professional and say, hey, I've gone through my files, I've gone through my medical reports, and I understand these are my questions. And get them to listen to you. So in doing so, it means that they get to take you seriously.
Right.
And I want to say a key thing, which probably people will say to me, why is she saying this? I'm saying it because experience is the greatest teacher. Not just my experience alone, but of those that I have been blessed to work with, encounter,
Right.
to speak to. When you go into these spaces, be very clear and, intentional about how you appear,
Hmm.
right? How you appear, how you show up. Because you will be judged just from people looking at you at the offset.
That's that's so true.
It's important that you go in with pen and paper, even if you do not know what you're talking about sometimes.
Right.
The
Right.
mere appearance alone, you get to be taken seriously. You get to be heard and listened to. So I had to throw that in there because I know that
That is
with
so
my
so true,
with
Christiana. That is
with
that is
with
so super true because you have to be intentional of everything that you do.
yes, yes,
You have to be intentional.
Yes, you have to, Joan. That's the reason why time is important, because time gives you the opportunity to be intentional.
Mm.
Time allows you to really not just process, to really have that moment of whether you want to be on the floor. In my case, my husband had to peel me off the floor, right?
Mm.
I can only smile about this now. It's taken years to get to this point. He had to peel me off the floor, off my bathroom floor. I was on that floor for what felt like 2 days. And it wasn't because, like I said to you earlier, Joe, your mind goes through a mental gymnastics. The mental gymnastics involved is the the reflection that we have. I'm going to add negative reflection that we have of ourselves. The things we tell ourselves. I cannot go into baby shower. I cannot do X, Y, and Z. I cannot go here. I don't want to see a pram. The things we do. My body is doing this. Why have I got that? There's so many things we tell ourselves. We need the time to process and let go. So
Mm.
once we have sought our medical records, we're now ready with our questions to ask those questions. So we become parcel of our journey. So we can make an informed decision, whichever way we choose to move forward. We can move forward. And these days there are options. Whether you're going through, IVF treatment or surrogacy, whatever option you choose to go down, at least you can walk into the door with clarity. You can walk into the door
Yeah.
intentional of what you want to do, right? And once that has been done, we're now at the point where we're still grieving. We can look at, do we need to have a therapy
Mm-hmm.
at this point? Because in different stages, not every single person begins with therapy. They begin with processing. It could be months later, year later, before they approach the subject of therapy or counseling. So it's really important with these things. We work in stages, and I work with my clients holistically. We look at the whole of your life.
Okay.
What's happening for you? Where are you right now? What stage are you at? At work,
Mm-hmm.
what is happening? How are you going to communicate this trauma to your HR department?
Mm-hmm.
How are you going to tell your director? Or indeed, if you are the director, how are you going to take the time off,
Right.
time out? How do you speak to your team? Does your organization, your company, where you work, make spaces, have the time, foster these conversations? Or is it a taboo subject for your workspace? How are you going to do that? Because not every HR department can truly understand, can truly support, and not every family member knows what to do.
Right.
So again, it's really thinking about, how do I tell my family? First things first, there is always that one person that you can confide in. And you will know who that person is for you. We all know who that person is for us. That one person that you can
Right.
truly
Yes.
confide in, and you can truly say, hey, this is what I'm going through. I just need your ear. I just need, someone to just listen. Because sometimes that's what we need. We just need someone to be there, say nothing, and just allow us to exhale, to really just
Exhale.
exhale.
Right.
Just to exhale, not even to talk, just to cry if you need to cry, exhale if you need to exhale,
Mm-hmm.
scream if you need to, whatever the need is
Mm-hmm.
for you, in whichever way that you're choosing to truly process your emotions, your mental space.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Do what works for you. That's the next step.
True.
For some, they do the steps, you know, the other way around, backwards, whichever works for you.
Right. Right. Right.
But these are the components that we need to work in. And so it's really important that we make sure that we have the
That is
right
so
people
true.
around
Do
us.
whatever works for you because we all are bio individuality, as I mentioned earlier, and so everyone works differently. Their body, they grieve. But the thing is that we all reach you where you're at and express yourself what you feel comfortable with.
Yes, it's what you feel comfortable
Hi,
with.
Val.
Good
Hi,
evening,
Will. How
ladies.
are you doing?
Hi,
Welcome,
Will.
I'm
welcome,
good.
welcome.
I'm good. Thanks for inviting me to this conversation you guys are having too. This, uh, kind of butt in for a second, if I may. Uh, this
Sure.
topic is really this is a good topic for everybody to have, and because a lot of times what we find is people that experience this don't usually have conversations around it or about it. They kind of carry their weight of that throughout their lives and don't think that they can share with anybody. And from a male perspective, it's something that a lot of men deal with
That is
quietly.
why we're so blessed to have
Yeah.
Christiana
So
here to talk.
Yes.
so I'm gonna
Yeah,
be vulnerable here
it's true
and, and
because
and share a
what
moment
Will
that
says
I
there,
actually
it's
experienced.
so true.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yes.
mean, go ahead.
And I was going to say,
But
Karen, Will, I want to hear from you, being the male in this,
okay.
and I will talk about men because I do work with men too. So
Right. Right.
yes.
So I know you have some insight on them, absolutely. But from a man's perspective, a lot of men, when they experience something like this from their partner, they sort of go through a moment of withdrawal too, but they don't actually reach out and share that with anybody, though they sort of carry it. And
Mhm.
and like from my own perspective, I had a situation when I was like 19. I'm gonna be vulnerable and like I just said, share this moment with you. When I was 19, me and a young lady was really pretty close. She was in banking at the time. She had just started her career off, and she ended up pregnant, right? And so once she figured out that she didn't give me many options of what she was going to do. She had already made up her mind that how she was going to handle it. And so she didn't tell me anything about she was going to abort this baby until, a day before she was going to the clinic. And I tried to talk to her and see if I could change her mind and tell her we could work through it and it'd be okay. But the next day she went ahead and did that. And so even at that age, I wasn't at the moment looking to have a child, but I was prepared to do what I needed to do to go through that experience though. Now, that probably would have changed the perspective of both of our lives because today we don't actually have conversation with each other anymore. But she's in banking still, and she went from teller to bank president now. So I don't know if she would have still been able to go through the ranks like that if we would have had a kid at that age. But our parents at the time, I think, would have supported it and been as helpful as they could, to us. But we just, she didn't want to give them the opportunity to do that, so she made the decision to do what she did. And so from my perspective, I've always carried that with me of what ifs. So it's something that with men, I never have discussed that with another man, outright. And once it took place, I never actually brought it up again to anybody else. I discussed it once with my mom, and that was as far as we went. I think I was like maybe 6 months later, I'd had a discussion with her about it, and I let it go after that point as far as me trying to, manage it. And so we had made the decision after that we just weren't going to move forward and try to be together any longer. So we ended up parting ways. And like I said today, we're not friends, but from time to time she'll drop me an email or something like that to let me know kind of what she's doing and that kind of stuff. I don't keep up with her, but she seems to always know kind of what I'm doing and what I'm up to. But we don't talk anymore. So I just think that sometimes the man in the situation, because we are raised to be strong and that kind of thing, it's something that you have to be able to talk to somebody about. And I'm sure you know this because you said you have some men clients. So uh, you have to be able to get that out to discuss how you feel about that. And then you can accept, I guess, in this situation, that's a different type of loss, but it's still something that as a man you carry around with you, wonder what if, so it's something that I think more men need to be able to talk with their partners about. And also if they can't get through it, because sometimes they carry that around with them and it sort of acts out in other ways, because they are
True.
carrying this burden of that
Right,
loss with them.
right.
True.
So yeah, so
Spot on.
it's just something that men sort of hold close and they don't share it enough. And I think that if their partners ask them how they feel after
Mhm.
losing a baby, then I think that they would open up and share their emotions more than you thinking that they're just
True.
strong enough to deal with it, and you don't ask them any questions about how they feel or what do you think or anything like that. So I think it's
Mhm.
something that at that moment the woman should. Once I know she's dealing with her own pain and grief and so forth, but at some point they're connected, so they still need each other to a degree. And so I think that women being, of course, the wiser of the two, uh, if she's in a position where she can now kind of talk to him about how she feels, then she can start the conversation. Maybe he'll open up, after she lets herself be vulnerable enough to share her pain with him. So I'm going to shut up now and let you guys come back in.
Will, can I jump in here, Joan?
Sure.
Thank Karen. First of all, Will, I want to
Uh-huh.
say thank you so much for opening up and opening your heart on this show. And I'm so sorry for your experience and what you went through. And although it isn't a miscarriage or baby loss, it is still a loss.
Yes.
There's a choice that was made there clearly, but it's still a loss to you. And I'm not going to go into how old you are now, but you still carry that from the age of 19 years old,
Right,
right? It's a huge
right,
loss. It impacts how we see life, it impacts the needle through which we look at life and how we move forward in our journey or not move forward. You're right in what you say. The reason why I work, especially with men, is because we are raised to believe that men are our protectors. They are, um, you know, the, the hunter gatherer.
right,
They are the ones that have no emotions. They are the ones that, if they speak up emotionally, or they are too soft, or they're too this and they're too that. And we've bought into that for a very long time. It is only in recent years that men are coming out and really speaking about their mental health, their emotions, because
Mm-hmm.
I began this I began my conversation saying we are human beings
Mm-hmm.
first. We are spiritual beings first and foremost. So
right.
we're going to have feelings, we're going to have emotions. And we cannot suppress that, because when we do suppress that, the worst happens, you know? And for
I
some,
agree.
we carry it for so many years. And in your case, I can tell as you were talking about your experience that it just feels almost still raw to you. You know, you haven't let go of that. And why should you at this point? Because you never really had closure. You know, it's really important that we connect. I said earlier that we began the journey in love, we began the journey together. So when it gets to a point of making important decisions, we cannot then forget the other, because it's a team sport.
True.
Imagine we're in a relay and you get to the third person and drop the baton and say, hey, okay, you can pick it up yourself. What happens? You've just lost the whole race, right? And
Yep.
so it's a team sport. And when it comes to decisions that's so important, that are life changing, and they are life changing, I must add, whether it's abortion or whether it's miscarriage and baby loss, it has an impact on both
Mm-hmm.
parties. It also depends on what support networks you have around you to support
True.
you to really move forward. You know, to me, as I've said to you, from hearing you speak, that crucial decision, that consideration, that care, that love, that attention that you needed at 19 was taken away from you.
True. True.
And so it just feels like a never ending, never healing wound.
I agree. I agree.
My question to you is this, and I'm curious with this. So forgive my curiosity.
Okay.
Did
Go ahead.
you, did, did you go on to have other children?
Yes, I have one son.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So I
And
only ended
I'm
up
glad to
having,
hear
you
that.
know, a couple of years later, I ended up in a similar situation, and he decided to have the baby. So, yeah, I have one son.
Okay. But yet you still remember how you were made to feel. This
Right.
is
Right.
the key thing. The key thing is how we're made to feel, right? We talk about,
Right.
I'm going to bring a little bit of legacy into this. I hear people say legacy is the plaque that we leave on a park bench when someone has passed away. Legacy is the building we leave behind for our children. For me, legacy is how we enter and leave a room, whether physical or metaphoric room, right? Because your legacy is how, or the person's legacy is how you make others feel and how others make you feel. That
True.
there's your legacy. And so her legacy to you, that connection, somewhat was destroyed from the way I hear you speak, that you never really had closure for it. So once again, I'm so sorry that you had to experience that. But it's really important that we don't forget the men in this situation. When it comes to miscarriage, baby loss, any kind of fetal pregnancy loss, whether through choice or not, we have to involve our men. You know, in my experience, I'm going to just use my own personal experience for a moment. I had to contact my husband's siblings. Now, he's the last of 10. And I had to say, we're going through this. I need you guys to be really careful and also to keep an eye and to check in regularly to ensure that he's okay. You've got, like I mentioned earlier, you've got to really find the right people around you. Surround yourself with the right people around you as your network, as your support network, because you can easily tap into it. And also you prevent isolation. You
Mm-hmm.
prevent that judgment we keep on ourselves, how we judge ourselves, how we tell ourselves the wrong thing and negative things that we say, oh, I'm not good to this, and my body's X, Y. We speak so negative into our bodies. Let's not forget that as human beings, we have between 12,000 to 60,000 negative thoughts a day. So we're already designed to be negative anyway. And so it's so important, more so, that we consciously, we intentionally are positive about ourselves and how we feel about ourselves. And in doing so, surround ourselves with those positive people who will uplift us, who will be open, who will be kind to us as we're kind to ourselves, who will make the time for us to be able to really discuss. They say men are from Mars and women are from Venus.
Venus.
The reason for that is because men and women process, trauma, situations, events, incidents in a different way. In my research and also in my work, example of men and how they deal with this. Men will take on more shifts at work. They will meet the boys outside of work. They will do everything. They will pick up substance misuse. They'll pick up just different things to really find ways to process what they are feeling and how they are feeling. They'll spend longer hours. They will avoid returning home when they're not connected with, or they don't feel connected with, when they're not involved, when they're not, you know, sought, when they're not pulled in. And I mentioned pulling in to each other earlier. It has to be done because in the absence of all of these things I've mentioned, you get the extreme, you get the adverse. And
Mm-hmm.
as sad as it is to say, the extreme of this is suicide. That's a real real life stories I could tell you. It's so important that we give our men the place, the space to truly express themselves, to say, hey, I'm not okay. I understand, the women carry the babies, the women are the one that embody that pregnancy. And so men are often forgotten because as a man, people are looking to you to protect your woman. People are looking to you to ensure she's okay, she's well, she's fed, she's sleeping, she's doing all these things. And, you know, the baby is okay. And when loss happens in any case, then now you've got to think about, she's now lost the baby. What is she thinking? What's her mindset? Where is she up to? And it's all about the women. The focus is on the woman because she was carrying the child. Whereas when you begin that journey, you have that relationship, you have that connection, you can push that noise out and say, hey, let's both focus on each other. What is it you want to do? How do we move forward? How are you truly feeling? What is the day like for you today? Can we journal together? Can we do it separately? Can we have one for ourselves and one collectively together? Can we go for walks together? Can we sit and talk to our family together? As opposed to what tends to happen is a woman will say, this has happened to me, I'm telling my mother first. And then the mother's like, what's your husband doing about it? Or what's your partner doing about it? When you involve, so not always, when you involve the in-laws, it becomes a chaotic field. Different cultures experience this differently. As an African, I can say in our cultures, you have the in-laws come in, right? Okay, what is happening? Why is my daughter not being looked after? Why is this not happening? You have the finger wagging and the finger pointing and all these things, and in all of that smoke, there are two people who are going through pain, who are going through trauma, who the world has just crashed and shattered and burned.
That is so true.
So this is what happens. This is the reality. But if you begin the journey with love, and I speak about couples who this is their journey. They want to start a family, or they want to, multiply their family. And they said, look, let's plan this, let's go and let's do this together. Really important. And even if you haven't planned it, and not every pregnancy is planned, as we all know.
Right.
As we all know.
Yes, I do.
Everyone is not planned. Making the time, finding the time allows you to pause and think. It allows you to truly lean into each other, to say, hey, this has happened. How do we move forward? How do we go and see our medical professional or medical team together? Are we going to be uniform when we turn up to this space? Are we going to be divided when we turn up to this space? Because that does happen when you have couples who are in a medical room having different discussions in the presence of others. So it's really important that you take the time at home and do that foundational work, even in the midst of you grieving. For some, they experience miscarriage, they want to try again. And the question is, okay, that's the plan. Can we try this? I find the men tell me it becomes mechanical. The whole journey becomes mechanical. Part of the time, part of the conversation is planning how that doesn't end up becoming mechanical. How do we avoid having that mechanical journey? Because guess what happens when that happens? We end up placing a wedge, a distance between our relationship. As I mentioned earlier, I have seen this split couples. I have seen this have marriages go their separate ways because it was too much of a burden to bear. Because there was that one missing link, which is honest, open, clear communication. Misunderstanding is the unsaid, the implied, as opposed to the express words, way of being. you know, either party accusing each other of not being emotional enough, or being motionless, or not caring, or being heartless. There's so many words that I hear time and time again, that we have to really sit and unlearn, relearn, and
Mhm.
learn. Unlearn the negativity, unlearn and for some of us, we're so used to, depending on how we've been raised, how we've grown, we sometimes model what we see when it comes to
Mhm.
communication. Learn behavior, unlearn the learned behavior, relearn how to communicate, how to connect, relearn how to be honest and open, relearn how to plan forward
Mhm.
honestly, like what do we want to do? How are we going to achieve
Right.
this? How would you like to achieve this? Can we meet in the middle somewhere? Can we strike an equilibrium? you know, how do we do? And
Absolutely.
I'm
Yeah,
truly, how,
love that. Love that. That's beautiful.
right? How do we do that? Let's try. And the biggest thing I'm going to say is you must put pen to paper,
Mhm.
because talking is not enough.
Sure.
We can speak and forget what we've spoken about, especially in the fog of grieving.
Mhm.
And we all know there are different stages of grieving: denial, shock. The
Right.
list is endless. When you write things down, they become clear.
Sure.
They enable us to make decisions one way or the other. And that becomes part of your progress going forward. When you get to the point where you are able to do what I can now do after 3
You're right.
miscarriages, smile. You can look back and say, wow, I've come a long way. Because there was a point I couldn't speak about this without it being an emotional journey for me. It's really important that we strip it back, and be those humans that we want to be for each other. Take the time to truly listen and understand, or I should say, listen to understand, and not listen to reciprocate, because
Mm.
there is a difference.
There's a difference. Yes, that's right. That's beautifully put.
Yes.
We have to listen to reciprocate. No, not a good way to listen.
Mhm. Mhm.
But listen with
Mhm.
understanding, be in tune, listen with wisdom. From me, from a faith perspective, we are all part of a higher plan. Whether you want to say the universe, you want to say God, whichever you
Right.
choose to, do not forget that. Spirituality, pull it in, because it gives you the foundation upon which to move forward, right? They say the wise man builds his house upon a rock,
Rock.
the foolish man builds his house upon a
That's
sand.
it.
Absolutely.
So let's think about building our house on the rock, as opposed to the sand. If it's quicksand, we're in trouble. But it's easily done, because when you're grieving, the things I'm saying to you may be far removed from your mind. Now, don't forget, we as humans, we are in a negative space mindset to the tune of 12,000 to 60,000 words, remunerations a day. And therefore, to be very conscious and intentional is really key, you know. And above that, our communication. I cannot emphasize enough how important communicating the right way, communicating in love
Mm.
is so important. If you're angry about something, allow your husband or wife or your partner the time to walk away. Do not think that the way that you understand, the way that you communicate, is the way that they have got to communicate, because we both communicate so differently. It's understanding your way of communicating and my way of communicating. How do we now merge that and hold space, give space for that to happen? You know, I
Yes.
say it especially when it comes to men. Women are emotional. I'm going to say that out loud. We were made that way to be
Absolutely.
emotional and sometimes very sensitive.
Right, right.
And for
You know,
some,
good you said that too, because I've
True.
spoken on this topic before. Emotion. Women actually uh more intuitive with the emotional aspect. I mean, we put this title on you guys saying that y'all all irrational and all emotional and chaotic, and but there's a system to that though, and that's something that I mentioned this last time I was talking with Joan, that men, we've gotten a title bestowed upon us that we don't actually deserve. So where it's supposedly men are not emotional creatures and they have control and they think rationally all the time. That's all a bunch of crap, as you just said. Now,
that's not true.
women, on the other hand, they know how to manage that emotion to some degree, okay? And that's the key to the thing, is they know how to manage their emotions. And so it doesn't
Yeah,
seem like
I
it
mean,
when you're in the heat
the
of the
points
moment,
that
but
you're
it's actually
touching on is
managed.
truly amazing.
Yeah, I mean, this is good.
Yes.
This is good, but
Yes.
it takes it deeper than the surface level.
Be-
And a lot of times in situations like this, like we're
you really,
discussing,
you
it's get lost.
continue to bring such a great clarity to this conversation, Christiana. That's why we'd be so honored and so blessed to have you in the space with us to share this moment and to really guide us through this process, and for our audience
Mhm.
listeners, because it's speaking about this subject long before this moment, it's, as you mentioned in the conversation, it's a taboo. Nobody want to talk about it.
No, no. I'm going to add this, Joan. Men can be deep thinkers. Let's
Right.
not get it twisted. They can. What tends to happen is, in situations like this, we don't allow the time for that to happen.
Mm,
Yes, we're intuitive. We're intuitive with our emotions.
right.
But when we are in a spot of adversity or crisis or trauma, that sometimes goes out the window. And we can sometimes come across or become almost irrational, but with purpose. So it's really important that we understand men are deep thinkers too, but they take the time
Right.
to arrive. And so it's important that we give that time and space for them to arrive
Right.
with us.
Show them the
You know,
grace.
allow them that time, whether they want to cry on your shoulders. There's nothing wrong with that.
No.
Give that shoulder, give your man the shoulder to cry on.
I agree
That's
with
That's
that,
how
beautifully
you
Joan.
put.
pull, that's how you pull in.
Hmm.
They want to cry, that's fine. They want to sit down in quietness, in peace, and just think. Because imagine going through this and avoiding going home.
Mm-hmm.
How sad and terrible is that?
Mm-hmm.
The same space which that love began, with that child began, which that journey began, has now become the space that you avoid to return because you're somewhat misunderstood or because you don't feel like there's a space being held for you. You don't feel like you can rock up or turn up without being labeled or judged, without your own feelings dismissed, forgotten. I've had men say to me, I became a stranger in my own home. That does hit you, right? You're a stranger in your own home because the power
When
has
you
been
talk
taken away.
about a safe space there, that comes from emotional intelligence too.
True.
Absolutely.
Because you have to get, like you just said, when everything is in the heat of the moment, it takes some emotional intelligence for one of you to be able to pull back. And if the other one continues to, get out what they need to get out of their system like that, they think they're not being heard. And most times in situations like that, people will only do that because they're not being heard. At least they think
Hmm.
they're not.
True.
And that's why they
Yes.
continue to grow like that. Now, if the relationship has been where y'all really built a level of intimacy,
Mm-hmm.
then you can have that. I'll give you your space to say whatever you need to say, get it all out. I'm listening, and if
Mhm.
you need to respond to it, you do it in a calm manner to where, okay, at that point right there you just brought up, we need to talk about that specifically, and then you can maybe point them in a direction where y'all can actually start a conversation instead of it all being about, as you just said, blaming and accusations, and I'm just upset and I don't know what else to do at this point. It's just take my anger out on you. So I think
Mhm.
that's something that needs to be happening in schools at the lower levels. We're not doing enough of that
Absolutely.
because we're doing too much other stuff. But I think conflict resolution, which we have it in title, but it's not actually where kids can actually benefit from it though.
Mhm.
And I think that if we do that, the society will start to change because people will have the skill set to minimize that confrontation, where people think they have to say out. Because you can see it even online now. I'm sure, like you said, you have male clients, but you can see it online where you have guys that go online and they'll, vent their frustrations, and you have women that go online and they'll start venting their frustration about men, and
Mhm.
some of those situations, what we're talking about right now, some of that's coming from some of this as an unresolved, situation among themselves. And so
Yes.
they've now incorporated it in their personality, and any little thing can set them off, and they can't pull themselves back because they're still suffering from the pain of going
Mm-hmm.
through a miscarriage or something of that effect. And then everything is much easier to trigger somebody when they're like that because that pain comes up
True.
immediately, and
True.
they immediately jump to that pain, and now they're
Absolutely.
just in a rage.
Mhm.
So I don't know what it's going to. I know what it's going to take for us to do it as a society. It's going to be, small steps, a step at a time. But we can do this as a society. We can upgrade to where we need to be going. We're not doing that right now because we still have all this political stuff that's out of whack, and then the system is changing over so much, and so people are they're not balanced right now. So it doesn't take much for people to get lost, and that's
Mhm.
what we kind of are going through this change. Everybody's not anchored into something, and if you're
Yes.
experiencing miscarriage problems, situation, then that's another big hammer up on you that you can't deal with among all
Mm-hmm.
the other problems that you already have going on. And then you have, like you said, you need a support system. If you don't have a proper support system around you, everybody's just kind of living their own lives saying, you'll be all right. It'll be okay. You get over it.
Mhm.
That's not
Right,
what you
right,
need to
right.
hear, you know.
Mm.
That's not what you need to hear, especially as a woman. I believe
That is so true.
that as a woman, you guys carry a lot of burden to yourself and don't actually let it out, like I said about men. But you guys carry a heavy weight to where a lot of the stuff is internalized. And so
Yes.
a lot of times y'all just figure, well, I'll just deal with it. I can't actually share this with anybody because they're going to use it against me at some point or say something negative that I don't want to hear at this moment. And so then they just internalize it, and yeah, it gets bad, and we're already living through it right now. But
Mhm.
can you talk to us a little bit about situations like that too?
Yes, I can. And I'm going to say this. Let me rewind to the communication part we spoke about earlier. The
Right.
communication is when you get into it, as you put it, Will. Thank you so much for your perspective. When you think about it, when you're getting into it, there comes a point where you can say, this is how I'm feeling right now about this. I need a moment. I
Right.
need a moment to process. I'm going to walk away. I'm not walking because I'm ignoring you. I'm walking because I need time. I need a moment to process. I will come back to you. And it's important that you come back and say, okay, I've had time. Let's have a conversation. What happens is when we are going through emotional trauma, psychological, physical trauma, we want to get everything out of us because we're boiled inside.
Yeah.
We are boiling.
Absolutely.
It's like think about when you're boiling anything on fire, and on the inside, there's that pressure that's happening. Our bodies and women, our hormones are all over the place. With getting pregnant to begin with, then you lost the pregnancy. Now, just because pregnancy has been lost doesn't mean the hormones you're experiencing goes overnight. That doesn't happen. It takes time. So we're still coming to the table with all of those hormones. And that's why it's important that we are in tune, or if we're not able to be in tune, we can be vocal in saying, here is what I need right now. If that means I need to give myself a few hours, go for a walk around the block before I can have a conversation about this because I'm feeling quite raw right now. That's what communication looks like. Real, honest, truthful communication. Because in a trauma like this, you cannot discuss everything in one day. The same way Rome wasn't built in one day, you cannot discuss everything in one day. You've got to table some of it and process it in stages, in phases. When it comes to, you mentioned earlier, Will, about the communication online, people expressing themselves online in an angry manner. Let's not forget that we spend time to learn how to drive. Before we are on the road, we pay our monies, we do our, here in the UK, we have our theory tests, first of all. Then we have the practical. Before you have your practical test, you've got to spend the time with an instructor learning to drive and knowing your way on the roads, right? Taking instructions, and finally having to have that practical test and saying, yes, I passed my test. Who tells us or shows us how we cope and deal with miscarriage and baby loss? Where's the lessons for those? There isn't. It doesn't exist. In the same way with parenting, there is no manual. There is no manual for miscarriage and baby loss. And therefore you were acting, well, actually, there wasn't. There's going to be, thanks to me. Anyway. But
Good point.
so we're expressing all of these emotions. We haven't got a clue. We haven't learned. We're going by our emotions. And therefore, it's important. That's the reason why I said it's important that we think about our communication and how we are communicating. You know, it is good to journal things. These days, we have phones. We can use our smartphone to journal. Because as you have that feeling and you're boiling up, you can speak into your phone as to how you're feeling. If we can get it out of our system, that alleviates some of the burden that we carry, because now it's out of you. It prepares you to be able to tell somebody else, to be able to communicate with your spouse, your other half, your partner, whichever label you want to use, the person you're journeying on with this. It gives you that opportunity, that space, that clarity to say, okay, let me have a conversation. Let me be that person, no matter what or how difficult it sounds. I have to listen, because we have to listen to move forward. Because if we don't, how do we move forward? How do we hear each other?
As you just said, the communication aspect of it is very important. That's a skill. I know people still don't look at it that way. They think we're just speaking. That's all it is to it. There's a skill set to communicating. And so we don't have people who want to actually learn how to communicate because they think that they already know how to do it since they can speak. They're like, okay, I'm communicating. So what's the problem?
Yes.
It's much deeper than that. You know, because in order to get your point across, you have to have it to where you word it to where somebody will want to listen to that. Then you can get like you just said, you can get everything out of your system. But if you can't, like you suggested, yes, use your smartphone. It has a voice recorder on it. Tap that thing and just start talking. You know, so there are ways to improve one's communication skills, and I think men and women can benefit from what you just said there with trying to utilize whatever level they're at in their emotional intelligence, they can get better at it. And the way to do that is by processing the information slowly. You have to slow it down. Now I know, because I just did some data on this, we're in a system right now where we have everything fast, right? And what's slowly happening that nobody's really catching on to and talking about in detail, and hopefully Joan and will do a show around this, is when you speak now, you have to speak a little bit faster than
That's
what you normally want to talk to someone about to think that
mm-hmm.
you're communicating with them, because they will shut you down. If you're talking real slow, they're
They
closing the
lose
door on
interest.
you.
They lose
They're not
interest.
hearing you. All
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna get is they'll be looking at you, but their mind is somewhere else. They've already checked out your conversation. So
You have,
you have to speak faster now. Go ahead.
sorry, you have, so thanks to social media and the world now, you have between 3 to 10 seconds to catch someone's attention. The reason why we talk about the opening when you're on social media, what you can post on social media, why it's important to have that hook.
Right.
As humans, we've now learned the hook conversation. We have to have a good hook for someone to stop in their tracks and take notice.
Exactly.
Otherwise, you're dismissed.
Really quick.
And as humans, because we are such automatic humans, we tend to do things subconscious. Don't forget, we operate in our subconscious
Right.
70%
Mm.
of the time,
You're
and
speaking to the man who speak about
30,
subconscious.
30%, no, seriously, 30% is conscious, 70 is subconscious.
Yes.
And
Mm-hmm.
our subconscious appears more times than our conscious does.
Mm.
And so when we're having conversations, when we want people to take notice, we've got to have the right hook to begin the conversation for them to hear us before listening to us. And that's no different when it comes to miscarriage and baby loss conversations,
No, it's not.
right? So a conversation of this nature is to say, some people say, "Oh, I'm not feeling okay." You've got to start a conversation. I need you to hear me right now.
Right.
You know,
Right.
be
Yeah.
very clear and be blunt about it without being rude about it.
Yes.
We speak
And
about our
you mentioned this a little earlier, but you might want to reiterate this again. When you have someone's attention, say every single thing that you need to say at that moment.
True.
And as you
Right.
said, the whole thing doesn't have to be covered in one day, but you still need to get out your major points so they will hear that at that
yes.
time. And then if you need to come back on the second day or sometime later and finish the conversation, you can, because you've already laid your points out. But it's very important that you
Mm-hmm.
absolutely hit those points when you have their outright attention and it's
Attention.
focused on
Right.
what you're saying.
Absolutely.
Exactly. You need to say everything that's on your mind at that time, because when you come back later, they're going to say, "Well, you didn't say that, so why are you
Mhm.
bringing this up now?" So
Right.
now it becomes an adversary conversation. It's not so peaceful any longer, because now they're thinking that you're trying to slide in some other things on them that they weren't prepared for, and they think you're attacking them. So you have
Yeah.
to make it to where it's enough where it's not so adversarial, that they know that you're not meaning them harm, but you need to say this because this is how you actually feel, and that
I
makes it
Right.
okay.
I agree. And before you came on board or jumped on, I mentioned taking the
That's
time,
powerful though. Yeah.
and that is absolutely, I agree with you, Will, because
Right.
it's a time, and thank you for mentioning that. It's a time when you take the time for yourself, especially in a couple situation, separately and together. Because when you begin to think and process and speak separately, you would have had down how you're feeling. So when you come into a space together, you can quickly say, look, not even quickly, you can actually say, this is how I'm feeling, this is what's going on inside of me, what's going on for you. Without doing that work initially, you may find a situation whereby you come together and you are saying all these things, and some of it or none of it makes sense in that moment, because you now find yourself ranting at each other. So you're not communicating. The people think when they rant, that's communication. It is not communication. There's such a thing. There is such a thing as effective communication. And in a miscarriage and baby loss case, one must have effective communication. Otherwise, you will end up pouring more salt into the injury. It serves no purpose. You know, you will do more harm than good. if you don't take the time to process your own emotions. What am I feeling? Why am I feeling this? What's really going on for me? You know, man or woman, we experience loss differently. We equate it to different things. Let's begin before we even begin to think about the environment that we grew up in, the modeling we saw of communication, of how others that perhaps raised us, were around, dealt with situations. And one thing about miscarriage and baby loss is you'll find that when you go into your families, that your mother, grandmother, great grandmother, aunts, uncles, that have experienced miscarriage, but no one ever speaks about it until you become probably the first person to speak about that and get to understand how they did not deal with it and how they did not communicate and how they felt powerless, how it was shrugged under the carpet and say, oh, well, it's life, just get on with it.
Yeah.
You
A lot
know,
of people experience that one.
in my personal experience, I was told not to spread my dirty linen outside.
Hmm.
Imagine going through a trauma and being told, nobody wants to hear that.
Right.
And my response was, who in their right mind would put on dirty clothes?
Yeah.
I can be quite literal when it comes to things.
Right.
Put on dirty clothes. Take
Yeah.
a line outside the house in the garden and spread those dirty clothes outside.
Mhm.
You're telling me that what I've been through is just filthy, dirty,
Mhm.
disgusting, unnatural,
Right.
not right, not to be seen or heard or spoken about. That really irked me. It did something to my body, mind, and soul.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
when you say don't to me, what do I
Yeah.
do?
Exactly.
I must. I must speak it out loud.
Yeah. Yeah.
Loud. Loud and
Right?
proud.
Not so loud, but quietly, effectively.
Exactly.
Mhm.
It's about the effect. And I
That's
think
right.
we must remember that when it comes to miscarriage and baby loss, it's about the effect. It's about the impact, the true impact, the emotional, the psychological, the physical impact it takes, the toll it takes on humans, and it affects people around us. We don't like to admit that, but it does truly take everybody, it takes a village
Yeah. It
to
does.
experience it. So why do we hide it away as if it's a dirty little secret? Right? Because when you can have clarity about your body, about what you are going through, about your communication, you
Mhm.
can quite confidently speak up and say, hey, I experienced this, it wasn't right, it wasn't okay. This is how I want to be treated, how I'd like
Right.
to be spoken to, this is how I want to be dealt with at work. These are my needs. These are the adjustments I need you guys to make for me and do for me because I need X, Y, and Z. For those who may not have experienced miscarriage and baby loss, but know somebody that has done or maybe going through it, you too can be an ally. You too can speak up for those that perhaps are not ready in that moment to speak up for themselves. How do we do that? At home, in our personal spaces. Are we making the time and the space and saying, let me give you my time? And making sure that when you give somebody your time, be authentic about it. Give that time and space. If you say an hour, don't plan another activity around the time and space you're giving the person. Really give them that attention because that's what they need. Also, allow them to lead when it comes to their needs Because sometimes when people say, "Oh, I'm going to help you," it may
That's the
not
wrong
be what
thing.
you need,
Yeah,
right? It may not be what you need in that
exactly.
moment, because what you need in that moment is different to what they perceive as helping you. So allow those who are experiencing this trauma to lead you in what they need, whether that's an appointment, whether it's, just sitting down and listening to them, whether it's being a sounding board,
Mm.
whether it's being an independent advocate for them, whether it's being a representative for them, whether it's being somebody that, they can call upon and say, I just want a telephone conversation with you.
Right.
And for employers, let's remember that when you decide to put a plan in place, which is an EAP, employment or employees assistant support in place for your team, your employees, your employees, your workforce, is that person the right person to support with miscarriage and baby loss? Because they could be the wrong person, never experienced it, don't really understand
Right.
what's going on. But I'm here for you anyway. But how
Hmm.
are you showing up for me anyway?
True.
So
True.
it's really important. These are the things that we don't speak out about, that we
Hmm.
need to speak up on, that we need to understand. To be true allies takes understanding and patience.
That was good. That's really good.
It takes
That was so
understanding and patience.
perfect.
You have
And
to.
that is so needed to be speak about more often because we don't speak up enough.
No, we don't.
So that
Because
we
we're
can get the
quiet.
right support that we need.
Yes. And for those that are supporting us, they too need to speak up enough.
Hmm.
When you're in a workspace, especially, when a question is being asked, or when you have a consultation period going, I have advised my employers to always undertake consultation period before you adjust, amend, implement a policy that relates to miscarriage, baby loss, fertility, and all of these things. Don't sit in your boardroom and write out a policy and say, here you go, this is a company policy, and it wasn't worth the paper it was written on, or the laptop it was typed on. It just wasn't worth the time. Right? I always say take the time, send out that consultation questionnaire to your workforce and say, hey, we're thinking about doing this. We need your opinion. We
Hmm.
need your thoughts on this. Collate the information, allow ample time to collate the information and say, now we've got this information, let's sit down and discuss it.
Right.
Don't just walk away and do your business and come back and say, here is a policy for you. Take the time for a second consultation and say, this is what the results of the first draft looks like. What's your thought? Was this what you had in mind? Can we have some feedback? Can we do a poll? Whatever you need to do to get effective policies in place. And when I say effective policies, policies that are fit for purpose,
Hmm.
not policies that are there to collect dust in your filing system. Honestly. And this is the thing that employers, it really irritates me when it comes to employers, or some employers, not all employers, some employers. The
Right.
ones that do it well are really excellent at doing what they do. Are the ones that are not sure and are reluctant to ask the questions. Don't be afraid, because at the end of the day, you're doing something good. You're making a change that truly has an impact, a positive impact on human lives. Put some care, some love, some attention into it. Because at the end of the day, when you don't, your productivity will suffer, right? When people start to take time off work from work because they're stressed, because they're going through emotional trauma, because you haven't quite considered them returning to work after miscarriage or baby loss or this trauma. You find yourself having to dip in and out of work, or you're there but you're not quite there.
Mm-hmm.
Think about the human who may be suffering under your, so to speak, under your roof, the working roof, right? Might be really struggling. Who might who might not be able to process, to communicate effectively what they're feeling and going through because they're in fear of being judged at work, in fear of being whispered or having Chinese whisper about the situation happening, or that they've disclosed to HR
Yeah.
and that matter is no longer confidential because now the whole office knows about it
Right.
because it wasn't carefully handled. Because you have people who are completely unaware, clueless, oblivious to how to communicate with you. And that's another thing as well with allies. When we talk about understanding, when we speak about support, unhelpful comments, number one, oh, it's okay, you can try again. That's unhelpful. Because as I mentioned earlier, for those that it perhaps took 7 years to get pregnant, in their mind, it's, oh my goodness, how many years will it be this time? Do I have the energy? Do I have the mental, physical capacity, psychological capacity to go through this torture again? Am I going to show up at work? Because let's face it, none of us going through a trauma gets to the door front of work and say, hold on a second, I'm just going to put my trauma outside the door. I'm going to walk into work. Hi, I'm here to work.
Yeah,
Finish working, leave the work, pick up the trauma, and continue. Doesn't
doesn't work
happen.
that way. Yeah,
Never does. We show up to work as ourselves and try to do what we think is managing our situation under pressure. And what happens is that lid eventually flips up.
they're gonna crash. Right.
So we take 2 steps forward and 10 steps backwards. We crash. You're right, Will. And the crash takes even longer,
Yeah,
Right.
it's hard too when it does happen.
Right.
right? And guess
Yeah.
what? Work will replace you. For those that are thinking, I'm going to go to work 2 days after a miscarriage, your work will replace you at the drop of a hat
Of course.
Will.
when it really comes to the bottom line. When it really comes to thinking you're no longer effective in your
Effective.
position
Right.
now. You've given us 10 years of your life. We have seen the best of you. We've taken the best of you. Now you're going through this trauma. Sorry, we can't really help you. We're just,
Yeah, that's unfortunate too.
It
That
is.
we operate
It
like that
is.
as a society, because that's when you need the company the most, and they sort of shun you at that time. They say, "Well, that's not our, that's not our problem. We're focusing on profit, so
Mhm.
mhm.
we may have to let you go."
Oh, we've
Right.
given you 4 weeks. We've given you 2 weeks. So far.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
That was enough, right?
Yeah,
Have you stopped and asked me how are you doing today?
Mm-hmm.
Have you made time for us to have a discussion about returning to work and saying what do you truly need to be back in our space? What does that look
very
like practically?
very few
Exactly.
companies have that sort of care and empathy for you, though. Very few.
And that's why I
Yeah.
said we're humans
You.
first.
That's what I was just about to say. That that's it's such a beautiful way when you start a conversation because we are humans first, and when we can look at it from that perspective, we can look at it
Yes,
in a different way because that brings a level of clarity to the conversation.
Yeah.
absolutely. So I always say this to employers that I speak to and work with. If that was your brother, your sister, your niece, member of your family,
Mm-hmm.
how would you like them to be treated?
True.
How would you like them to be cared for? What things would you want to see implemented to support them in that situation on their journey? If you think about that for a moment and you know that what you are providing for that team member is mediocre at best, then you got some thinking to do. And that's the reality. And when I say that, I always see the penny drop. It's like, oh, aha moment.
Yeah.
It's an aha moment that happens. Like, oh, I never looked at it like that. Now, how can you
Mm-hmm.
help us with our policy? And I have to
Mm-hmm.
say, have you undertaken, done a consultation period where you ask your workforce what exactly will be good for them,
Great.
both men and women, because men go through it too. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the danger. The danger in a work environment is men are seen as, oh, it's okay, you'll be fine. You know, they manage you man up.
Tough.
Just
Right, man up.
man up, toughen up, you
Right.
know. You be okay, have a beer in you, you be right as rain.
And deep
Actually,
within, look what's happening to him.
he's dying slowly inside. Literally dying slowly inside.
Mm-hmm.
Because for some, the work environment might be a place that could potentially, for men, I'm saying,
Yes.
potentially give the best. If you're a man who at home, you're a stranger in your own home, you have no voice, you can't get a word in edgewise, and all of these things are happening. You have the in laws who have now fully moved in to support their daughter, and you
Yeah.
come into your household and you left with two people, you return home to 7, 8 people in your household constantly. It's a revolving door. You cannot speak. Your work environment becomes your
Mm-hmm.
haven, your sacred space. It becomes somewhere you go away to think, somewhere you hold that holds you up.
That's so
If you
important.
go there and that doesn't work out for you, where else can you go?
Where do you go?
Because because women, as I like to say, will literally have a mother's meeting in the middle of a shopping aisle.
Yeah.
we can have a situation, judge and jury all in one breath on an aisle. We'll have conversations. Men need the time, need the place, the space to convene before we can even hear them speak and bring that home. So it's important, So this topic I can speak about all day long if you give me that time. But
Yeah.
I know we haven't got the whole day. It's I think of 2 o'clock myself. It's morning for me, and I just want us to remember this. Think about what it is you want. Think about how you truly are feeling, how you process. Take that time to process individually and collectively. Allow each other the space and the patience to truly speak, express, and to disclose, to air out, and to alleviate yourselves from that burden, pressure, stress in your household. Keep all others out. I'm going to say this very clearly until you're both ready to let others in. And I agree what that looks like for you. So each person is different. From
This is
a mental perspective, and one thing people don't think about, perhaps might be a bit too early for you guys, a discussion that's really important to help with the moving forward process is this. Think of how you're going to remember your loved lost one. How do we want to remember the loss? Is it the date? Is it something physical? Is it a keepsake, a memory box? How do we want to really remember? Discuss your trigger points. What will be triggering for you?
Mhm.
What do you want to do? And about those times of the year, I had someone once who wrote a post about this. 24 years later, after experiencing a miscarriage with his wife, he was still remembering the lost son that would have been 24 years old last year.
Hmm.
And so for some, there isn't that recovery. People say you heal, you recover. I say you find ways to move forward. Hence the reason why my company is called Moving Forward Post Miscarriage, because you find ways to move forward in small doses, big chunks. You get to choose what that looks like for you, because with each person, that's very different.
That is so true. That is so true. And I think there is where the hard part comes in sometime, because you have to have the level of mindset to show yourself the level of grace that I'm
Yes.
human. And it's okay for me to take time, as when you spoke about a noise, not allow that to push you forward before you're not ready for the moment.
Yes. Yes.
So showing yourself the level of grace so that you can heal.
Mm-hmm.
Take the time
To heal. Hmm.
to heal. I know we'll always speak about that too as well. And as well, Lady K. Take the time. It's okay.
To
It's
not be
not
okay.
something to be rushed.
Mm-hmm.
Why my
Yeah.
computer's acting up so
It's
much?
it's
Yeah,
okay to not be okay.
take the
It
time to
really
heal,
is.
because only you know yourself.
Yes.
Only
Yes.
you know what pace you can go at. So work with that. But you're comfortable
Yes.
with ease and grace, so that
I'm
you
gonna
can find the time to move forward for yourself, and that you can continue your journey through life.
I'm going to thank you, Joan, for saying that.
I
I'm
don't know
going
if you
to add
guys
to
can hear me.
this. We can hear you. Yes, we can hear
Yeah.
you. Break up a little bit, but we can hear you. I'm going back to what Will said. When people are frustrated and expressing themselves on social media and doing all these things,
It's super, super, so important to take the time for yourself.
we have to remember that in trying to raise a family,
Can
plan
you
a
guys
family.
hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Can you hear us, Joan?
That's all right, Tommy.
You good?
Tommy
Okay.
T.
Okay. Yes. So in doing so, let's
It's
not
super
forget
important,
this. We have to remember
because
that
rushing to get over it don't really
yes,
work.
it doesn't. But one point I'm going to add, one point is this. Part of that frustration, part of that anger, this is something I'm going to be speaking about this coming Thursday in my live on LinkedIn, is when we go through this journey, we have part of identity that we lose. So identity in miscarriage and baby loss. That becomes part of our frustration, our anger. Who are we now? Now we've lost this pregnancy, this baby.
Can you guys hear
We,
me? I don't know why my computer
yes,
is buffering here.
we can hear you, Joan.
Oh,
Yes, we
okay.
can hear you.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
we can
You
hear
know,
you.
you
Can you
have.
hear us?
Now I'm hearing you guys. Yes.
Okay, I was
Okay.
just saying that one thing I wanted to add to this conversation is this. Will mentioned earlier about the anger that comes out on social media with women,
Mm.
speaking out and saying things. And this is something I'm going to be doing on my live LinkedIn live this coming Thursday, is identity.
Wow, that's a good one.
The journey that we have, the journey that we go on, both male and female, is the identity. And so when we experience a loss of this nature, our identity can sometimes be misplaced. Because at the end of the day, one, I'm a woman. I should be able to do this in the first place. A mother. Now I'm no longer a mother. Who am I? Am I just someone who's going to work? we're misplaced. Our identity is
Yeah.
misplaced, and therefore that adds to the frustration, the shock, the isolation, the anger, everything that we feel.
Yeah.
For those especially who it's their first time, is their first child, they built everything around becoming a
Right,
parent,
right, right, right.
right? Because now we're professionals. We've done the professional
Mm-hmm.
thing. I'm a wife or I'm a partner in a relationship. I'm this and that and the other. This is the one identity that really for me is an icing on the cake and is
Mm-hmm.
everything to me. And suddenly I've just lost my identity.
Right.
Where am I?
What
What
do
am I
you
doing? Who
do
am
in that
I?
moment?
In that moment, we pause.
Mm-hmm.
We have to take a pause. Take a
We have to
pause.
take a pause.
And this is why I keep reiterating it's really important that we take the time to process it, how we're feeling, why we are feeling that way, what each feeling means, label it. Are you angry?
Right.
Are you
Label your
sad?
feelings.
Are you
Mm-hmm.
confused? Are you shocked? Did you have pre notions?
Mm-hmm.
Was that a preconception of ideas that you told yourself to begin with, that
Right.
now this trauma has suddenly just ripped from underneath you?
Mm-hmm.
So it's important that we think about that. But like I said, I'm going to be doing that at my on my live show, LinkedIn Live, this coming Thursday on LinkedIn. So yes.
Yeah, we will be joining and love to hear, because these are the topics need to be explored and talk about more.
Yes,
Having a great conversation, opening up that dialogue, right, and just
absolutely.
bringing a level of clarity, new insight, fresh perspectives about how we should really talk about it.
Yes, yes. Don't be ashamed. The one thing I'm going to say
No.
very clearly is there is no shame. There should be
Mm-hmm.
no fear. You know, recent research does show that men are more responsible for miscarriages than women, especially in the first trimester. This is still being researched, and I don't want it to be a case of me pointing fingers, but to really talk
Right.
about what's current, and there's still
Mm-hmm.
ongoing research. We have companies like Tommy's, the baby company that always are on board with different research being done
Yeah.
globally. There are companies, there are medical practitioners who are doing research with this one specific situation, and it's really important that we say that. We get to understand our DNA. We look at DNA from a male perspective before we add any habits. What I mean by habits are things like without drinking, smoking, and all of the all of the vices that we pick up as human beings. And we want to embody those in our systems and question, why does this happen? Let's think about it. From a perspective of moving forward after a miscarriage, your preconception is really important. Is how you plan forward. What you
Mm-hmm.
put in your body, on your body, and
Sure.
around your body, your environment is really important. So
Mm-hmm.
that's something to think about. Should you choose to want to get on the journey again of becoming pregnant down the line, or if you want to even go down for IVF, there's preparation that needs to be done. You've got to give yourself the time and get to understand. The reason why I mentioned earlier on in this in this conversation is getting your medical records, or at least speaking with your medical practitioner and understanding what's involved so you can make an informed decision is really
Exactly.
vital, really vital. And also knowing what you need to do. For example, preconception. Are you on a folic acid? Are you able to ensure that you've got 3 whole months off so your baby has a good chance of developing well without defects? You know, as I said, research shows now that men are heavily contributors of miscarriage. Previously, it was a woman that thinks about it's just me, it's my body, I've done X, Y, and Z. The
Right.
reality is DNA speaks volumes.
You
And
can get you can right, exactly.
you can't avoid it.
You
DNA
can't
speaks
avoid it.
volumes. But in addition to the DNA, your lifestyle speaks an even bigger volume. And it's whether or not you're prepared to tweak your lifestyle to help you to contribute to a positive outcome as opposed to a negative one.
That was good.
Yeah, I don't know that I was cut off there for a second. These everything that you have provided us tonight, you serve us so well, Christiana and Will, and this is what we need to learn and understand and share
Mm,
with our friends and our family, because when someone has experienced a loss, whether miscarriage or, as well, you spoke about your friend, how do you cope?
mhm,
Because the coping mechanism is how you move forward from experiencing that trauma, and how do you continue to live your life on your journey.
mm.
How can you rise above that, finding the level of resilience, the strength, the determination to say that, okay, I'm going to rise above this, even though I experience whatever that may be for you at that time. And that is why this is such a good conversation. I know we have experienced a few technical difficulties, but the point came through
Mm,
because Christiana is so great at what she has experienced, and took that on and has become a pioneer, or leading the way forward and open up the dialogue.
mm.
There's no shame in it.
That was a good presentation, Christiana.
It
Thank
is
you, Will. Thank you so much, Will.
such a good president, and we're gonna put you in the subject in the spot, because we're gonna ask you to come back and do part two, so that we could continue this conversation.
Sure.
That we can able to dive a little bit more deeper, understanding
Yes.
the male aspect, the female family. And I know you spoke about the in-laws, the noise, the drown now the noise, and so that you can
Yes.
remember what brought you both together.
Mm-hmm.
And as you mentioned, and lighter part that you mentioned, and I know Lady K will too as well, pull inwards,
Yes.
pull
Yes.
inwards, so that you can become stronger.
So
Listen to
important.
your partner. Right. Listen to your partner. Allow him or her to explain, not on your terms, but give him the space, facilitate that space.
Mm-hmm.
And I like how you explain listening. Listen
Mm-hmm.
not to respond, but just listen
To understand.
to understand. That is
Couples
so
that know
beautifully put.
couples that know themselves very well tend to finish each other's sentences. This is not the time to do so. I'm just going to point that out. This is not the time to finish your spouse's sentence.
Yeah.
You must allow them to finish their own
Mm,
sentence because you
mhm.
cannot tell completely what they
True,
are thinking. Especially
true.
for the men. The men have told me that their wives or their partners think they're thinking this when they're
Hmm.
thinking the complete opposite or something different. And that's why it's important to give them the opportunity, that space, that grace, that time, and the patience to truly speak out. Because how often do men get to really speak their mind?
True.
In this
Right.
situation, it's even more so that we
Hmm.
get to hear from them because they're quiet beings sometimes, or they will speak to their boys. But guess what? It's no good leaving it with your boys because inside our household, we need to find a way to move forward together. We need to
Hmm.
understand us. So I always say, put your isms aside.
Absolutely.
Put your
Absolutely.
isms aside and face yourselves. You know, here's one thing I would say: if you're able to get on the floor, sit facing each other. Or if it's a chair, sit facing each other and communicate. feel free to pause. You can say, let's pause now, let's return, pause and do what you need to do, whether you get me a cup of tea or whatever you need to do, and come back. Face each other, lean in to each other, not necessarily verbally, but physically. Embrace each other when you speak. Get close. Because remember how you made that baby to begin with?
Right, right,
Was it from a distance? Was it from a
right.
distance? You were not swinging from a chandelier. You were up close and personal, right? We're all
I
adults
remember
here. I
that.
don't need to spell it
Hmm.
out. You're up close and personal.
Hmm.
Be up close and personal with each other.
Right.
And in moments that you come
Be up
to
close and
feel
personal.
that your emotions are rising, don't speak. Actually, don't speak. For some people, it's really difficult to not speak because you want to, but
Right.
refrain and resist the urge to speak. Rather, lean in, hold on to each other, and embrace each other for 2 minutes, for 5 minutes, for as long as you take the time to calm yourself down, because there is something that a touch, a hug. We saw this in the pandemic. The pandemic taught humans so much of what contact and connection and touch really means for us humans. Remember, we were told we couldn't hug our families because we had to be on lockdown, we had to be in our bubbles. Imagine that. So think about that and bring that to your conversation, your discussion. Sometimes don't say a word, just embrace each other. Feel, feel your heart beating, feel the breath, feel the pause, feel each other and just be in the moment. Be present. Put the phone to one side. In fact, lock up the phones. Lock up the phones. They have no business being around in this moment. Put the phone away and take the time.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we
Yeah.
can hear you, Joe. So yes, really important. So many
Yeah.
ways. There's so much
So
I can
this was
tell
a
you
good
about.
discussion in spite of
So
our
thank you.
technical but it's okay. We still appreciate were you saying, because I couldn't hear you up from that end. Were you saying something, Christiana?
Now, what's up? We're just saying, feel. Put your phone away. Did you ever say put your phone away? Put your
Right.
phones away.
Put your
Phones
phones
away.
away.
Feel each other. Feel the breath.
Hmm.
Feel your heart beating.
Oh, I
Feel your
love
connection.
that.
Because by doing so, guess what happens? The human contact has the
Hmm.
power to calm us down. It's a little bit like when someone steps on your toe, and the difference between you getting really annoyed to you being quiet is, I'm sorry. Just that touch and say,
Hmm.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. That connection, that touch, scientifically reduces. It reduces that frustration, it reduces that anger, it reduces that reaction that our brain tells us. Because the brain receives the signal and it sends it
Right.
back how we react. It works well in tweaking the brain and bringing down that anxiety. Because in conversations, the reason why we miscommunicate is the anxiety we're feeling, is the stress, the fear, the everything we've told ourselves that we are feeling that plays a part in how we communicate, how we hear one another, how we effectively listen. But when you pause and say nothing at all and you just embrace, you begin to bring down
Hmm.
that heartbeat, you begin to bring down that anxiety, you begin to almost eliminate, eradicate that stress that you are feeling. It doesn't take away the
Right.
emotion of the sadness, but it brings down the anxiety
Right.
because
Right. It
now it's
shifts.
about trusting. It shifts the
Hmm.
mind, it shifts the body, it puts you in a more open place as opposed to tense, contracted place. Because our muscles contract when we are in a negative headspace.
Right.
right? So, yeah, no phones, no words, embrace.
Embrace. Pull each other closer in and
In, yes.
experience them. Just staying present in the moment, as we always like to say here, being present in the moment, and it's very powerful. And you
Yes.
pausing,
Hmm.
you embracing the level of oneness.
Yes. Yes,
And
yes,
when
yes.
when you can go there and reach that level, each one at its own, each person at their own pace, you experience something beautiful,
We
and you're
do.
able to take the steps. You're able to take the steps to move forward on your
Yes.
journey.
Yes, we
So
do.
take the time. Take the time. Christiana, what last words would you like to leave us on this segment? I know we've been cut, and we so apologize for, the technical, but it's good. We are moving forward. We are moving forward.
On moving forward, yes. So my last
All the
words,
interruptions and stuff like that.
my last words will be, um, I think one word to find me if you're looking for me, if you want to get hold of me, if you want to speak with me. But the first last word
Hmm.
is the human interaction. We're humans first, number one. Number two, you began this process in love. Don't remove the love as you go through the trauma and adversity. Try your best to keep that love in place. And remember that this will pass to the point of you moving forward. I mentioned about how I was on the floor for, for days. I'm not on the floor today. I move forward. Really important to operate in my humanity spirit, and operate in love. Every communication in love. Think, how will this impact the person that's about to hear it from their perspective, the receiving end? Is it meant to be positive or negative? Is it intentional? Is it going to be positively contributory to the person's well-being, their mindsets, their heart space? Will they welcome it or will they reject it? Humans, you know, and it's really important. We're humans first. Let's operate in our human capacity for anything else. And for those who would like to communicate, contact me, speak with me, I'm always on LinkedIn. It's my second virtual home. Virtual home. If you type Christiana T. Johnson on LinkedIn, you'll find me. I'm on Instagram too. The same thing as at Moving Forward Post Miscarriage. And my company is called Moving Forward Post Miscarriage. Very clear, self-explanatory. And you can email me too, at movingforwardpostmiscarriage.com. So those are all of my communication. Feel free to drop
Yeah,
me.
and we have all your
No,
information in our show notes so that you can check it
yes,
out. And you're gonna send us the link as well. I know, Christiana, for Thursday, and for your
yes,
what will you
I
be
will
speaking
do.
on? Identity, which
Will be miscarriage, baby loss, and
that's such a
identity.
great topic to talk about.
Yes, 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 yes. So yes, definitely, I will do that. It's all on LinkedIn. My lives are usually LinkedIn lives. Hopefully I'll be looking at doing some other space, but LinkedIn Live is my home for now. For now.
That's where you need to stay.
That's what
That's
I
where you
need to
need
say.
to stay.
Yes.
If I was going to give you any advice, stay there. Stay there. Stay there.
Great. Well, thank you once again for this opportunity. It's been an absolute pleasure,
Now I can
blessing,
hear you. Sorry about
honor.
that.
I was just saying thank you so much. It's been an absolute blessing, a pleasure, and honor to share this space and to speak my truth.
You did
With you
excellent.
guys. Will,
Good.
amazing. Thank you for sharing and being so vulnerable to open up. Um, and I do, yes, you are healed, you are in a space where you've moved forward. And I understand that if you can help any other men, especially young men, is the communication.
Yeah.
One thing I'm working on is bringing this topic to much younger generation in schools, in spaces, because we teach children, we teach young people in school about sex education. We speak about, child development, childcare in schools and in colleges, but we don't talk about miscarriage and baby loss.
Right.
We need to. We need to.
We
Yeah.
just don't
Yeah.
talk about it, and we need to talk about it.
That,
So
that
thank
is so
you,
true.
thank you,
Thank you
thank you,
so
thank you, thank
much.
you, thank you, thank you so much. I
Thank you so much
thoroughly
for
enjoyed our
for,
conversation.
for sharing with us, and thank you for being in, sharing your story, and letting us know you have the level of authority to speak in it because you've experienced that 3 times.
Mm,
And so you have the authority to speak on that and to share with us because you're coming from, as you rightly said, you're true from an authentic space. So we
mhm.
all can, you draw us and you share us on a journey, how you've experienced, how you overcome, and you continue to move forward and being a real beautiful example so that we can understand and we can help share with our friends as well that it's not easy, but with time, with right communication, with the right level of support that and people who surround you, you can able to
Yes,
take your baby steps moving forward on your journey
yes.
and recreate and continue to live the life that you so deserve. So we, Lady K and Will, I know want to say so much of gratitude to you in this moment, and happy birthday to your brother and your friend as well, and everyone
Thank
who's
you.
celebrating birthdays today. Happy birthday to all of you, and continue
Thank you.
living your best life.
Thank you.
And
Yes, yes.
please don't
I,
forget to check out 246 Beijing Vibes
I will. I
Classified
will.
Arts because there's so much good stuff for you to check out there. And thank you all with being patient with us tonight to continue this conversation. Thank you for the subscribers. And thank you for purchasing our books as well on Amazon and all the other things that you support us with. We want to say we love you. We thank you for everything that you do. Tommy T, thank you for working behind the scenes, and you will take us out. We love you all.